Welcome to the Philosophical Matter podcast, where we explore conversations in the intersectionalities of growth mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship, and impact. I'm your host, Dr. Lowe, the Wealth and Wellness Strategist. I have an amazing guest here. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Philosophical Matter podcast. I'm Dr. Lowe. I have with us today a leader, entrepreneur, a thought leader, and a visionary. I have Brandon Hall here. He is the founder and CEO of MENT Fitness. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I like that intro.
Well, I don't think I did it justice. So tell me a little bit about Brandon.
From Dallas, graduated from the Grambling State University. I had to throw that in there. But just outside of that, been in the training industry for pretty much my entire adult life.
Okay.
And really want to see trainers thrive in this space. It's a space where we're not always taken care of.
Okay.
And so decided to get into this training space or fitness space in regards to owning a gym so that we can change the outlook of how trainers are truly taken care of in the fitness space.
That's interesting because most of the time when you think about fitness, you may focus more so on clients or people who need fitness, but I guess to have access to fitness, you have to take care of the trainers. So that's a good perspective. I like that.
Yeah, and we're not always taken care of. So changing that outlook and changing that perspective where trainers are almost first in that space, and if trainers are taken care of, the people will be taken care of.
I like that. So what inspired you to get into the fitness space?
So it was crazy. When I was at Graham, I had to do an internship before I graduated, and I was actually looking to get into the space of working in somebody's front office, the business side of sports, right? And my internship was here in Dallas at the Cooper Fitness Center.
Okay.
And it was about 4-month internship, was paid. It was a good time, but I learned so much in that space. Being a college athlete, I worked out all the time. That was part of it. My major was kines. So I was in the space, but I didn't really fall in love with fitness until I did my internship at Cooper.
Okay.
And being there during that time, I realized you can make a career in this space. And so when I graduated, I decided to take that leap of faith and hey, I'm gonna get this a year and see what this looks like. And so that's where it began. And my pops at the time, he lived at Southside on Lamar. And so I would train people at the gym there. And I was also training folks in DeSoto and going back and forth. I had a couple of baseball players I trained, and that's kind of how it all began. And then did that for about a year. And towards the end of that year, I was introduced from a girl I interned with, a company she was working with.
Okay.
And jumped on with her, with them, and I was with them for 9 years.
Okay.
And I learned a lot of not only just about training, but just the business side of training during that tenure. I was a trainer in the beginning and started in DeSoto. First day, 3 people and me in a parking lot at Hampton Road Baptist Church in DeSoto, and grew that area from that to having over 1,200 members in the area, 8 trainers. And then I went on to open up Corpus Christi, Texas, and I helped with the kind of expansion of San Antonio, and then went on to leaving after year 7 to Atlanta to open up the company in Atlanta, Georgia. And that was kind of that was one of those crazy turning points, just life in general, business in general. I needed that. That was kind of my Batman before coming Batman. He went off and he came back. That was kind of one of those awakening moments for me, was Atlanta. And I wouldn't be here today without me going out there and doing that. So.
Okay. I like that. So you mentioned you graduated from Grambling State University.
Don't say it like that.
I mean, I didn't say anything. I
Okay,
mean,
okay,
Grambling
okay.
State
You know what?
University,
The put the on front
it's
of.
part of the SWAC. I mean, HBCU. I mean, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna disrespect Grambling on camera, but when we're in the gym, it's a different story.
Touche.
But and so you majored in kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the audience like what kinesiology is and how you feel it prepared you for fitness or your career in fitness.
So it's really just the study of movement. So, I took biomechanic classes and human anatomy, a bunch of human anatomies, and just truly just the study of movement,
Right.
right? And one of our classes that we feature in the gym is called movement.
Right.
And, a lot of people work out for weight loss or for looking a particular way because they have a vacation coming up. But truly working out is being able to truly move better. And
Okay.
sometimes we don't take that as serious, right? I want at 70, I still want to move well. I don't want to feel like I'm 70 at 70, right? And a lot of us feel like we're 70 at 40, right? And so how do we change that in regards to specifically even just Black culture? How do we change that mindset where it's not just about looking a particular way for
Right.
a trip that's coming up or losing weight, or just looking super fit, right? So a lot of it is just how do I move well?
Gotcha. That's good. So, you say you're looking to kind of change the mindset of how we look at working out. What would you say to the person that's out there? They're gym adverse. They don't want to go. They're not really interested in looking a certain way. What advice or even motivation would you give that person about getting into the gym as it relates to the longevity of their lives?
So start somewhere, right? Majority of us, the fitness share in regards to people that pay for gym memberships is small. It's not a huge, market share there, or it's not as large as it should be. I'll say that. There's more people that aren't doing fitness on a day-to-day basis than there are, right? The fitness industry is a, multi-billion-dollar industry and continues to grow year after year after year. But heart disease and all of those things are on the rise, things that
Right.
are preventative. And so the first thing I would tell anyone is just get out and do something. Start off walking.
Right.
Do something that you enjoy doing, whether it's dancing, some type of dance class, or getting out and playing a sport, whatever it looks like. But get out and do something. Start somewhere. Start just tracking your steps. For a lot of people, that is a great start, right?
That's good.
And so start somewhere. And then once you conquer that and you feel like, hey, I can do a little bit more. I'm a little bit, I have a little bit more wind behind me. I feel a little bit better. I can play with the kids a little bit longer. Walking up the stairs isn't as difficult. Then let's throw in, weights. And we need to lift weights. We need resistance training.
Right.
And it's been one of those things where, especially with our women in our population, I don't want to get big. I don't want to,
Right.
get bulky. But that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Right.
It can, if you're taking those steps to move in that particular way. But you have to really be strategic with that, right? But if you're moving weight on a consistent basis, 3 or 4 times a week, it's not likely. So,
Right.
but we need resistance training for building lean muscle mass, which helps to increase our bone density, which cuts out, things like osteoporosis and things like that. Also, just with posture, right? And as we get older and as we age, being able to decelerate our bodies if we have a fall, right?
Right.
Most of our, older population, once they have a fall, they typically break something and then health declines super fast, right? But if they are active, if they are mobile, if they are moving well, and they can decelerate their body when they're having a fall, they could prevent something from breaking, right? I had an aunt in Oak Cliff that was yard of the month all the time, and she actually slipped outside doing her yard one day and broke her hip on the curb, and health declined fast. And she was a clean bill of health
Right.
at that time, even at her old, she was 90 plus age, but health declined fast. And so we see that often. So how do we, you know, as a culture start to kind of change our mindset around just moving.
I'm glad you went there because that was going to be my next question. As a healthcare provider, there are specific screening tests that we do for osteoporosis and balance and mobility and things of that nature. And so it's so important that we're having this conversation because if we not associate working out with just looking a certain way, but literally preventing us from having early decline in our health or increasing the longevity of our lives. And it's true, as soon as someone is immobile, the mortality increases for their life. And so, how important would you say for someone to start working out in their 20s, in their 30s, in relationship to what we just said about falls and mobility and all of those things? Because oftentimes we think, oh, well, I'll work out later, or maybe next year I'll start working out, maybe my kids graduate. How important is it for people to start today, now, and then have that consistency so that they can have that routine and make it a livelihood, not just a habit?
100%. I would say, well, one, any clients that I do have that have kids, especially when I was in an outdoor setting, they would always ask, hey, can my, kid jump in? Or like, yeah, of course. But a lot of that was helping to instill those habits, not just in them, but also in their kids. And so everybody that I can think of that their kids saw them working out on a day-to-day basis back then, those kids went to college and they work out in college without their parents' supervision, right? So
Gotcha.
those parents instilled those qualities then that wouldn't have been there if they didn't see their, mom or dad
Right.
waking up or after work getting their workout in on a consistent basis. But I also see too, from a standpoint of it's almost like riding a bike to an extent as well, where those that have worked out in their early years, it's easier for them to kind of come back into it and jump back into
Gotcha.
it. It's a lot harder when you've never done it, right? Even that feeling of, we've all worked out before. You get to that place where it's like, ooh, this is this is tough, But someone that played sports in younger years or worked out in their younger years, they have felt that feeling before. But feeling that at 40, feeling that at 50, you feel like you're going home,
Right.
home, And so creating those habits early will definitely help make things a lot easier, in later life, but also to just the consistency early on, right? We typically just don't gain 50 pounds in 6 months,
Right.
right? And so it's a gradual increase, right? And so, but that gradual increase can either go, in a positive direction or in a negative direction, right? You can get to a place where, medicine won't get you back to
Right.
where you were, right? You can get that so far gone. My grandfather is a great example. He was 89 or 88 when he got diagnosed with neuropathy in his left leg. And he pretty much he became immobile. He couldn't move, didn't have the balance and coordination to move around, but he didn't take his diabetes serious. But I mean, that is, again, his nutrition, right? And so just those deposits over time
Right.
led him to that particular state. And then, from there, health declined fast, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so, he made it to 90. My grandfather lived a good life,
Right.
right? But before that, I think he could have made it to 100, right?
Right.
My great aunt I spoke to made it to 100. And so just creating those habits early kind of help with all the things, right? Preventative medicine is exercise.
Right.
And so
For sure.
how
I'd
do
like
we
to say that again. Come on
preventative
now.
medicine is exercise,
I-
100%. So how do we get us into a place where we understand that and it saves us on medical bills and all the things later on?
Yep. The habits and the things that we do compounding against us, meaning
Mm-hmm.
like if we don't have those habits that you speak of, we end up compounding into
Mm-hmm.
disease
Mm-hmm.
and chronic illnesses that we can't get rid of just because we don't do that over time. Now, I love that you mentioned osteoporosis. I don't want to miss that point, or I don't want the audience to miss that point, because a lot of times when we're screening for bone density for people who may be at risk for osteoporosis, it's literally thought of as an old person's
Mm-hmm.
disease, but it's actually an old person's disease due to what was done in the 30s and 40s, or
Mm-hmm.
what wasn't done, whether it's calcium and vitamin D intake, but also weight resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So, could you elaborate a little bit about what you do with the people that you train to make sure that you're incorporating weight resistance and teaching why that's important?
So we focus on a couple of things. One, my favorite class. We teach two classes. One of our classes is called movement. We
Okay.
talked about that. But in that movement class, we have 7 concepts. We take a very athletic approach to how we create the concepts for that class. And so everything from mobility training to heavy lifting to conditioning to speed work, and the speed work, all of it is all regressed for general population. But as everyday humans, we don't work laterally. We don't
Right.
always work rotationally. Everything in the gym, for the most part, is a push or a pull machine, right?
Yeah.
Working in what we call the sagittal plane. We don't really have a lot of equipment or things that we do in the frontal plane or
Right.
transverse plane. And so, creating spaces where we can move well in all planes.
Okay.
And so, but that is with weight, with resistance, without weight, without resistance,
Okay.
but also from a mobility standpoint, we focus on the kinetic chain,
Okay.
right? So up your kinetic chain from your ankles to your hips to your thoracic is mobile, stable, mobile. So mobile at the ankles, knees are stable, hips are mobile, lower back stable, thoracic mobile, right? Working up that chain. So we focus on those mobile points, making sure we have good ankle mobility, good foundation, good base, right? Good mobile hips. Most of our members in Gen Pop, we are in the seated position all the time,
Right.
right? And so kind of correcting and fixing the years or the hours spent in this seated position,
Okay.
right? And so even from us being in the cell phone era, right, and also the seated area, our shoulders are rounded forward and we're tight across the chest, our backs are weak, and so how do we fix that, right? And so what we do at the gym is we focus on a lot of
Okay.
fixing those mobile points, but also strengthening those mobile points as well, and our stability in the whole nine. So we're very strategic on how we do that. Both of our programs are a 12-week program,
Okay.
and they progress in that 12 weeks. Our members don't. They follow along the calendar and they know what workout is going on that day. But as far as the science behind how we progress it, uh, they don't really know that, right? But there's a science and methodology to how we actually take everyone from week 1 to week 12. And then
Makes
we
sense.
have a performance test, and then we measure and kind of do testing on the end of the quarter, and then we start back up at
Okay.
week 1. And so with that progressive cycle, we can kind of continue to progress where you're never getting stagnant as
Okay.
a member.
That's good. I like that. And I can attest to that. Well, I don't look at the schedule often because I don't want to psych my mind out of it. So I'm just going to show up, and whatever the assignment is, I'm going to do it. But I like that you guys put a lot of thought, effort, and science behind those activities, because one reason I love the gym at MENT Fitness is that I know that when I go in there, I'm particularly working on something that's going to improve my whole body for that day, that week, and over time, all of that is compounding to make me healthier as I go along. And it sounds like that you, from your intro, that you're a veteran in the fitness space, and then also by the way that you explain concepts, that you are a veteran. Now, what would you say was that one pivotal moment, thought, or motivation that made you say, I am going to open my own gym?
I'm going to take you back to Atlanta.
Okay.
So in Atlanta, I Atlanta was a crazy time. So I moved to Atlanta in October of 2019, October 11th. My birthday was October 14th. I
Okay.
remember all of that. Um, right before COVID. And we had already kind of started to prep trainers that were going to be opening up Atlanta. We had been prepping them since July. So I was going out there essentially almost every other week to kind of prep those trainers that were going to open and launch in January. We launched in January. January was it was rainy every day. We're an outdoor program. It rained every single day up until like March, I think March 14th or 15th. And then COVID hit the week after where
Oh
they
my
shut everything
gosh.
down. So, but it was crazy. We broke records within the company, in Atlanta. Still, regardless of that, had an amazing team. And what Atlanta taught me, Atlanta is a different hustle, a different grind, and I learned to get my hustle back in
Okay. Yeah.
Atlanta. And so that's one thing that Atlanta taught me. Every trainer we had 3 or 4 jobs. They were a
Right.
barber, they did taxes, they were a trainer. Everybody had 3 or 4 jobs, and but I learned to get my hustle back in Atlanta. I kind of got a little complacent in Dallas. My money was good, living was good, and starting over in Atlanta, I learned to kind of get that hustle back. So that's the first one, first little deal I kind of learned was to get my hustle back. Also, being in that space, we had 2 leaders in Atlanta. I was over one side of Atlanta. The other leader was over the other side of Atlanta. February, opened in January. February, she backed out of Atlanta.
Okay.
So I took over all of Atlanta. So I had 10 leaders. And at the time, I probably had like maybe 30 trainers that I was kind of leading. And I grew that by July to, we had over 56 trainers. And we had broke records in regards to how many members we had. And that was around that time we had to switch to virtual because of COVID, the whole nine. And during that time, I also gained the confidence that I can do this.
Right.
Right. And so, especially taking it on by myself. So, hustle, confidence, and then at the end of 2020, as a company, we were at 96,000 members and about, I want to say 1,200 trainers.
Oh wow.
By middle of 21, we were down to like 700 trainers and about, I think, 70,000 members. And they were asking, all the regional directors at the time, like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And I ended up writing this long, like 13-page proposal explaining everything that was going on from the regional director level to our area director level to our trainer level. And they looked over it that Monday. Our regional presidents and C-level group looked over it. They changed one thing out of the entire 13 pages. I had already passed it on to about like 5 or 6 other folks for them to look at. Everybody was like, oh, this is good. Some things we could, kind of add and change immediately. Some things cost money, but a conversation should have at least kind of started from that.
Okay.
And it didn't. And so a week later, we get right back into our weekly meetings with our regional president, and they ask us the same question again. What's going on? Why are trainers leaving? And I'm like, I just answered it in detail. It took time and effort. And at that point, I knew I didn't belong there. And this is like maybe August. And so at that point, I started literally creating a business plan for MENT, what that should look like, what the field should look like, what the focus would be, where we would do it, the layout of the class, the flow of the class. Is it group? Is it personal? Is it semi-private? How do I take care of the trainers? How do I make sure we make a huge impact, in our communities, the whole nine? And so that's where it started.
Okay.
And I've always been a person where I'm never doing anything alone. Like I played baseball in college. The teamwork aspect is always kind of forefront. So, what's that team gonna look like, right? And so I was leaning on different trainers and pulling folks along, having Zoom calls, in regards to what that could look like. And I'm talking to trainers in Austin. I'm talking to trainers in Atlanta, trainers back in Dallas, and that part was, was there. And at the same time, I also wanted to leave the fitness industry. So as I'm doing that, I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm done with the fitness industry.
Okay.
And there's a lot of trainers today that were with that company that aren't trainers today. They quit and they went completely out of training and or left training completely. And they're amazing trainers,
Right.
cold with it. You know what I mean? And huge pillars in their communities, and they're not doing it anymore.
Gotcha.
And so that was another thing too. Once I did get home, was how do I get those people back in those seats, right? And
Gotcha. I
so,
like that.
but during that, I was applying for jobs from September all the way through December, applying.
Denied.
Denied. I wouldn't even say denied because nobody ever actually took my resume and like took it serious.
They wouldn't
And
even give you.
I gave my resume to about 4 or 5 different people. They're like, Brandon, your resume is amazing. I don't know why you're not getting looked at. And I had a few people revise it, and they're like, really, no real revisions need to be made. It looks good. You might want to change this or change the verbiage here, but everything looks good. And I did have one company reach out to me, and he was like, hey, this might be a stretch, but there's a nutrition company coming to Dallas based out of Cali. They want you to, they need a marketing director. He was like, your resume speaks to the director side, not so much the marketing side, but I think I'm gonna put your name in the hat. And first interview killed it. Second interview killed it. Third interview, when it actually spoke to marketing,
I was like,
I say I
where's the
couldn't.
marketing?
Yeah, we could put these flyers on these doors. You know what I mean? But now I couldn't really speak to it, and it was one of those interviews where you knew when you got off the phone,
You're like,
I need to go back and look at some more jobs because I'm
Yeah.
probably not gonna get this one. And that happened, and then I ended up having an interview with a fitness company. Had 2 of those, and then my last one I had was on December 17th. Had the meeting or interview. Interview went well. He said, hey, we're gonna call you at the beginning of the year, probably around January 8th or 9th. And was looking forward to it. I had my final interview then, or we were going to schedule the final interview then. Come around, followed up, nothing. And they were supposed to come to Dallas. This company was bringing 60 gyms to Dallas. I was going to help open up 30, and ghost town. And it kind of hurt because I was excited. He had me excited about it, but they actually didn't come to Dallas, and so that's what I'm thinking that happened. But at that moment, maybe a week or so prior, I was listening to a podcast while I was in Atlanta, and the podcast was with 2 individuals. They were both talking about the reasons why people don't take risks, essentially. And they were both talking about, dropping out of college to pursue whatever it was. One guy was saying, I was worried about what my friends thought, what my parents thought. I was scared of that risk, right? And then the other guy, he had to drop out because he got sick. And he said, once I was better and, I came back. And he said, what's the worst thing that can happen if you take a risk? And he said, the worst thing you can happen in that situation was you go back to school. And I started thinking about what's the worst thing that can happen in that, if I come back home and just do this fitness thing. And I started playing with that, and I called a couple of my clients who were in the teaching industry or education space, and it's like, hey, do y'all need subs? We always need subs. You'll never not,
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I can sub, I can drive Uber, and then I can, I can do my training and until I build everything back up again, because I've been gone for 2.5 years.
Right.
And so building my clientele back up. And right before that podcast, I listened to another podcast, and they were talking about how, basically don't run from what you're good at. The impact that you can make on the world. Don't run from that. What God has told you to do, called you to do. Don't run from that calling. And that was what kind of put me back in the mindset of I need to do fitness.
Right.
And then that second podcast was the one that was like, hey, go back home. And so
Wow.
that day, or the next day, I reached out to our regional president, was like, hey, I'm at the end of this,
Done.
the end of this little session, I'm done. It was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I was like, I'm done. I'm going back to Dallas. I'm quitting. And the CEO of the company, she was like, "Hey, he's gonna reach out. He's gonna try to keep have you stay." He reached out, threw some money at me, and I turned it down. And he tried to threaten me, take me to court about all kind of other stuff. And I basically told him like, literally, I'm giving y'all 9 years. I'm giving you 4 weeks notice of me leaving. You know, if you got to do what you have to do, I'll have my attorneys call your attorney. And so, he came back and apologized, and I came home. February 6th, and put a post out on Facebook saying I was coming home, and I had about 22 clients sign up immediately.
That's what I'm
And
talking about.
I
Get it
never
going.
had to sub, never had to
Okay.
drive Uber, and I started building my clientele back up from there. So Atlanta was one of those crazy points where it was just kind of out there by myself. I had family there, but they're on the outskirts. They have family of their own. But kind of being out there solo was just kind of a weird place. But getting that hustle back, getting the confidence back that I could do this thing, was super needed. There was a lot
Gotcha.
of growth that happened in that 2.5 years.
It's funny how this is what I'm hearing you say. You left to go to to Atlanta for growth, but you left and came back to Dallas because you didn't see growth. That's what like you didn't see evolution or growth within the company for you. And I also hear you saying you were trying to run from your assignment, but like when you really started listening, you heard what you needed to hear and came here, and your gifts, your obedience to your assignment made room for you. That's what I'm
Yes,
hearing you say.
100%.
And I like that because, sometimes we don't listen. Sometimes we hear and we're like, I don't know if I'm really supposed to go in that direction. But it's if you're listening closely or you're intentional about like what your purpose is or finding your purpose or becoming self-aware, you can hear. If you believe in God or whoever your higher power is, you would hear, this is the direction I need to go into. This is how I'm going to make impact. This is how I'm going to serve. And so I truly feel like you're serving with MENT Fitness. I feel like you've created a team atmosphere for your leaders within the company. Now, earlier you said that it was one of your passions or your purpose to make sure that you take care of the trainers. Now, you've been in the industry for a long time, and somewhere you picked up that fitness trainers aren't taken care of. Give me some insight as to what you mean about taking care of the trainers.
So in most training spaces, whether you're we'll start with the big box gyms. Most
Okay.
trainers that just get into training, they're going to the big box gyms. I won't give any names, but they're going to the big mega gyms. And in those spaces, they are typically trading dollars for hours, essentially.
Right.
The only way I can make more money is if I train more hours. And but the unfortunate part is the profit share of said client paying for that session, the majority of that profit share is going to the gym, not the trainer.
Gotcha.
So the trainer gets, pennies on the dollar essentially. And so the only way in those spaces to advance as a trainer is to either get into sales
Gotcha.
or sell a bunch of, nutritional supplements,
Right.
or get into some type of management position. At that point, you're not doing what you're passionate about.
Right.
You're in a managerial type role, and so that's one level of it. Or if you are at more of like a studio type facility or studio space, it may be more trainers. I get paid to run a class, but that's it. And so, if I train 10 classes in a month, I get paid for those 10 classes, and that's it. That may be all that's available for a trainer to train. So I'm over here training 10 classes. Then I go to this gym, I'm training 10 classes. I go to this gym on the other side of town, I'm training 10 classes. But it's like creating a space where trainers don't have to essentially be pawns for these big box gyms or these studio gyms, right? Creating a space where the gyms are ran and owned by trainers is
I like
essentially
that.
what I want to create. Well, I'm
I
creating.
like that. So, what would you say you do to cultivate growth mindset and incorporate your vision for Mint Fitness into your leaders and your staff? Like, what do you do to kind of, I guess, articulate what you're trying to do, or also, I don't know, maybe you just pick people who have the same mindset. What's your process?
The selection process is
Okay.
100% important. Everybody that I work with currently, for the most part, I've worked with in the past.
Okay.
There's a couple that I don't, but they're students of the game. They're always willing to learn. They're coachable. They believe in team and they understand the team component. And so very selective on who we bring on
Right.
to our team. First and foremost, even from our board of directors, like you just have to be a good person
Right.
first, right? If you can't do that, then everything else is,
Have some integrity.
you know what I mean? You got to have some integrity. And so that, and then also a passion for fitness,
Right.
and so we want people that truly have a passion for what it is that we do. It's not about them. A lot of the training industry too is, it's a look at me, it's a lot of that. And the training industry hasn't always been that, but Instagram, social media, it has become a very much so a look at me type industry, more so than look at the trainers or look at the clients,
Okay.
right? And so creating a space where we're getting back to the basics
Gotcha.
in regards to what training is truly all about.
Well, it sounds like you're, I don't know, maybe focusing on being the best leader you can be so that you're getting back to the basics of fitness for the clients or those who want fitness. But that leadership helps you to attract and gain like minded people who can help you kind of disseminate more of that fitness all over. I don't know how far you're planning to expand, but all over DFW for right now, but in other places. Now, do you feel like you've had a mentor that you kind of work with to help you with your growth, or even help you with your business model as it pertains to expanding to where trainers can have ownership, or kind of run that those other gyms?
100%. So I definitely mentorship, and I'll go back to even to your last question, just empowering
Gotcha.
those trainers. But from a mentor standpoint, I've always, yes, and I've always kind of kept mentors around me. Some people that are in the fitness space and the people that aren't in the fitness space. That's the only way I can truly be challenged
Right.
in order for me to grow. And so I need people around me that can call me out when, hey, this doesn't make sense, or this isn't in the best interest of said, so and so. So keeping mentors around me, or keeping people that are masters of their craft,
Right.
that I would never touch, in my circle and around me. Even in our current space, from the Ashleys to Tyler, like all of those individuals, Drew, like everybody kind of is great at what they do.
Right.
And I lean into those individuals and I let them kind of, do their thing.
Right.
Right. And that empowerment is huge. And sometimes mentorship isn't always, this six-figure CEO person
Right.
that you have coffee with on a quarterly basis, right? I think we always we tend to think of it like that, but sometimes it is, a business partner, but it's somebody in a different space that can hold you accountable to, whether it's your faith or whether it's training, whatever it may look like. I think a lot of times we think mentorship, we think
Gotta be
you
somebody
got to
who's
be this
making money.
six-figure
Yeah.
person that you have coffee with, at the local coffee shop. And I don't think it always. It's not a one size, fits all type of deal. I think in my space I have a lot of mentors, but I have mentors for kind of different modes or modalities of accountability that I
Gotcha.
need on a day-to-day basis.
That's good. So, let's say we were talking to someone who's in college. They're an athlete and they're majoring in kinesiology or pre-physical therapy or whatever
Mm-hmm.
courses they need to take, and they're still kind of undecided, and maybe they're looking into fitness. What would you say to that person as they try to hone in on going into a career in fitness? What kind of advice would you give that person?
It's hard. It's not easy by no means. You have to put in the hours. So it's not as much as social media puts on the perception that, hey, this is $1 million business. You're gonna make all the money in the world. It's not that at
It's not
all.
that.
It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of time on the front end. Like truly making a great trainer isn't just about looking a particular type of way, right? Social media can give you that perception. One, I mean, you have to be great with people.
Yeah.
So having a personality and being able to, you know, deal with all walks of life,
Right.
right? You may be training, a 12-year-old kid one day, and then later that day you have, a 75-year-old grandmother, right? So not only from a personality standpoint, but also from a scientific standpoint,
Right.
how I train this 12-year-old is not going to be how I train, Mrs. Deborah that's 75, right? And so one, personality, two, understanding and respecting the science behind it. When we had this conversation, we had a trainer networking event at the gym on last Saturday, and this is one of the topics. The training book doesn't teach you everything. It's a good foundational component, but it lacks the application side. And so, once you do have kind of the back end, the credentials and the letters behind your name, then you do have to go and get the hours of, you got to get that live in person
Right.
component. So that part, and then the part that's missed, and I would say is missed the most in this industry, is the business side. So you got
Yeah.
the personality, you have the look, and then you have the skill set, right? But the business side is what takes a lot of trainers out and sends trainers back to corporate America, or it's always a side hustle. I'm always just training my partner or my
Right.
friend
Yeah.
or my family member, but your training business doesn't grow because you lack the business side. And so, is my price point priced right?
Right.
How is my marketing? Do I have, what am I doing to create leads and opportunities for myself? Am I getting out in the community? And so another topic we had was, am I too broad in regards to my offerings, right? Do I need to find that niche to truly kind of hone in and make this one thing kind of different from what everybody else is doing, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that are trainers. And so how do I make sure that I'm unique compared to everybody else that's out there?
So one of the things that attracted me to MENT Fitness was community events. You guys do a lot of community events, and I love that because people having access to information, fitness, or just learning more about the fitness industry is super important. What motivated you to incorporate that into your business model?
Couple things. One, we've always just been community driven. I went to DeSoto, gyms in Cedar Hill. Like that's my community. That's who raised me. That's who kind of brought me up. So it's I have to give that back, right? My 7 years of training before going to Atlanta, I wouldn't have a job without that group. I would have been doing something else. And so, one, always giving back to those people that gave back to me, first off. Second, education, right? There's a lot of misinformation out there when it comes to nutrition and fitness and all the things, right? And so how do we continue to be in a space where we can impact the masses through education, right? The big component of why there's not more people that value fitness and are spending, their hard-earned money in fitness in regards to preventative medicine and all the things
Gotcha.
is a lack of education in the space, right? If people really knew the benefits and understood the benefits, maybe we can change and create habits that, you know, aren't there in our communities, right? How do we make our communities more healthy? And so creating those opportunities to educate the masses, whether that's our women's expo, some kind of wellness expo that we host. We're working on doing a couple of other things this year at the gym. But even the big community workout that we host with Run It Up and Cedar Crest Community Center.
Right.
One that's, you know, in the heart of Dallas, right down the street from Roosevelt. You know, we're trying to impact the masses through fitness and education, right? And so just getting bodies there to experience, you know, fitness can be a good time. And you don't have to do it by yourself.
Absolutely. And I like how you incorporate the fun part of it, the education, but also the actual work that we have to do. Now, you talked about making sure you take care of the trainers, but it seems like you take care of your trainers, you take care of your members, and you also take care of the people in the community. So I'm looking forward to you expanding even bigger. Now, as a CEO or as someone who's operating the business, but you're also creating fitness plans, but you're also training your members, how do you balance your personal life with your business life?
So,
Or do you have a personal life? Do you?
yeah, and I know a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and I it sounds good at times. I think it's not as, you have to be intentional about it. I will say that, but it's not as realistic as people
Right.
try to make it seem. Especially in a space where I'm starting this thing from scratch.
Right.
I'm growing it. Like, you have to, again, you got to put the hours in to truly make it
Right.
work.
Absolutely.
You know, the last few Saturdays we've been at events. Last Saturday we had the training networking event. The weekend before that, we were at a church, and we had a table set up at a church. Before that, we were at an event in DeSoto. We have 2 events that we're doing on Saturday, right? And so, you know, I could realistically create some type of life balance for myself, but something's gonna fall off,
Right.
right?
That's true.
I can't afford for the business to fall off right
Right.
now,
We have
and
to do
so
that.
I have to sacrifice a little bit of this time for this time, right?
And that's
And
good.
so, you know, it's cool if everything was balanced out. That'd be great. In my mind, I'm trying to create the foundation for this thing so I can create more balance for myself later. But making those necessary sacrifices now for, you know, what's to come. You know what I mean? And so I knew coming into this that it was going to be a grind, but I signed up for it.
Right.
Right? Just like I knew going to Atlanta was going to be a grind in the beginning, and it was a grind in the beginning. But I understood the assignment, and it will come, right? But I have to create the platforms for myself to be able to get out of that space. So is it great alignment right now? I'm saying all that to say no. But you know, I try to do the necessary things. That way I can still keep myself fresh and on alert. I'm not burnt out.
Okay. That's good.
I'm still excited about what it is that I'm doing. And so it's not a crazy personal life right now, but there, you know, I have something.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if you're anything like me, like I understand that about being a business owner and starting something from scratch. It's just hard. You can't let things fall because you have the passion to make this thing succeed. But what I will say is, I'm of the mindset that if you are doing something that you really love, it sets your soul on fire. You're passionate about it. It doesn't feel like work, and you don't get burnt out. I can be sad, tired, maybe even overspent because of all of the things that I have to do throughout the day. But if I sit down and help a client with some type of financial plan, or if I'm teaching them something, or literally just coaching and mentoring, like literally, I just get super excited and I'm feeling fulfilled.
Energized.
So when you're doing something that fulfills you, meaning you're aligning your work, your passion, and the way that you generate income with your assignment, it doesn't really feel like you're sacrificing all of your personal life. It becomes part of your personal life
Yep.
because your person is fulfilled. And so hopefully that's something that you get to do. As we wind down this conversation, I guess we could talk all day. But since we both are products of HBCUs, I from the Alcorn State
It's
University.
all out. I thought all had two
We've
L's.
already
I
had.
told you that. I thought
Listen, I
all
thought
had
you were
two
an
L's.
intelligent
Okay,
person.
my bad.
So I've already explained to you.
Okay.
Always Alcorn.
Oh, okay.
Let me hear you say it.
Okay.
Alcorn.
Always.
So, out of your experiences starting a business in the fitness industry, even the obstacles you may have faced as you started your business, and even every day as you continue to grow your business, how do you think your HBCU prepared you?
Ooh,
The
that's a good one.
education or even just the environment and experience?
That's a good one. A lot of I think the HBCU excitement has kind of been a thing within the last 4 or 5 years. It was a period where I'm not going to HBCU,
Right.
But I wouldn't change my Grambling experience for the world. I went to Oklahoma Baptist my first year playing ball, and then I was at a JUCO playing ball for one semester and transferred to Graham spring '08. And there's something about being around people that think how you think, look the way you do, listen to the music you listen to. It is different. You know what I mean? I had a good time at both schools I went to. I made the best of it.
Right.
But Grambling was a good time. I had, partners that was in school that when Obama won the first term, they didn't have the same experience we had.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
We got calls from teammates. Hey, come to campus.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the yard.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it was a big party, like big party on campus. We were out there probably till 2, 3 in the morning. Everybody Jeezy on repeat.
My president is
Yeah.
my land.
But I listened to some of my partners I grew up with, and they're at some of the other schools, and it's Obama with a noose around his neck on campus. It's folks wearing shirts that say, my White House is still white. Like
Right.
crazy stuff like that. And so from that standpoint, but I went to DeSoto too, so it wasn't like Grambling. I was never around that, but it was Grambling was a good time, but it was also a time for me to. Grambling is one of those places. I think all HBCUs. One, you have teachers that pour into you that really
Right.
care about where you're going, and they set you up for success. Even my intern director that helped me to get the Coopership, the Cooper internship. Even that was, we still communicate through Facebook today. But she was a huge help. Like they truly are there they want to see you win. And so from that experience to just truly like, we're not giving a whole lot, right? Because
Right.
of funding and things like that on our campuses, we make a way out of no way a lot of times. And I think that sets you up and truly sets you up for success more than anything, right? I know the folks I know at that graduated from Grambling that are here in Dallas that are doing some amazing things
Right.
in our communities.
Right.
And they're products of where I went to school.
Right.
And again, I think it's a lot that has to do with being in a space and being in an environment where everyone wants to see you win.
Right.
You
I've said this before, but my HBCU experience allowed me to be in a space where I didn't feel like a minority, where the people around me, I'm looking at people from all walks of life, there to do the same thing that I am there to do, to get an education, to learn, to grow, maybe to play sports. I ran track in college. And so just having that experience, and then like you said, certain things that we don't have, that we don't get, we're underfunded, adversity that we may experience during undergrad allows us to face the world without hesitation, or allows us, or it kind of trains us to be trailblazers in this space, because what may break another person down just because they don't have that,
Right.
that experience,
Right.
like we just rolled through it because we've already had that on our backs before. And so I like to think, like when I talk to my other HBCU cohorts, they're saying the same thing. They're echoing it. Like, I'm prepared from almost anything.
Yep.
Like, and
Listen.
it could knock us down, but it's not.
It doesn't. People
And
don't understand what we went through to get a
no,
fee sheet.
no,
You know what I mean?
listen, just to just be here and get through that. And still to this day, HBCUs are underfunded, and so as we go out to try to create something for ourselves or create things for the community, it is our way of giving back. And I hear you're saying the same thing. And so it's our way to not only give back to the community, but to educate the community, provide more access to whatever it is that we're doing, whatever amazing skill set or whatever assignment that you've been given. I hope that you continue to do that for the community.
For sure. 100%.
So we're about to wind down. I have this segment where you just answer the questions pretty quickly,
Okay.
like 5 seconds.
Okay.
And then we're going to get out of here, and you're going to tell everybody how they can contact you. So the first question is, do you believe in that you can obtain fulfillment?
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel fulfilled right now?
Yes.
Okay. What do you feel about wealth?
I love wealth.
Okay.
But wealth is more than just the monetary aspect as well. Yeah, I feel wealthy currently.
I love that, because I believe wealth is a mindset. It's not just a dollar. Poverty is a set of circumstances, but getting out of poverty and having wealth is literally here.
Yep.
And that's my intention with wealth and wellness. Do you plan to get married?
Yes.
Okay. 5 years, 10 years?
Hopefully on the 5. Hopefully on that 5 side.
Okay. When
Yeah.
you're training just yourself, what song or what type of music are you listening
You know what's
to?
crazy? I'm a R&B, 90s R&B, or like old school like Isley Brothers and Commodores, cuz when I'm lifting, I don't it's more tempo focused for me.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
control movements, making sure I'm, now if I'm on my last set, Boosie. It's definitely gonna be Boosie. Boosie coming
gotcha.
on.
You got
But
two, Grandma. Okay, you got two. Put the Boosie in there.
but in the beginning it's control
Gotcha.
movements, everything is old school.
Ice cream, cookies, or chips? I don't.
tough.
For real, the real answer.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Okay. You don't like the crunch.
I like chips, but if I had to choose, I would like some good ice cream.
Okay.
Good ice cream.
Gotcha.
Like I gotta take some good
For
ice
the
cream.
audience, not all the time. Just every now and
Yeah.
again. But we balancing it out.
Ice
with
cream mess with
fitness.
my stomach, but I'm just saying if I could, I would, do
Just
the
ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How many times do you work out in a week?
It varies. So this week has been 2. I'm getting my 3rd win in this week. But I did something to my quad, so I've been kind of rehabbing and prepping my quad. But this week I'm 2 down, so it depends. I try to get 4 in, 4 to 5 in.
Okay. Who's your favorite R&B artist?
Oh, that's a good one. That's tough. That's a good one.
Come on.
That's a good one. Let me think. Now, old school, I'm gonna go solo. I'm gonna go Luther.
Okay.
New, I'm gonna go 90s. I'm gonna go like Usher. I'm gonna
Okay.
go Usher. Yeah.
All right. If you had to purchase a concert ticket, who would you go see?
Dead or Alive?
Yeah.
Dead or Alive. Mike. I ain't get to see Mike in concert.
Okay. LeBron or Kobe?
I'm gonna go with Cole.
Michael Jordan or Kobe?
Mike is Kobe originated. He's a
I'm just
duplicate.
trying to
He's a
see.
duplicate.
People be
Kobe is the
disrespected.
duplicate of Mike.
People
Mike
be
first.
disrespected Mike, but
You
I'm
know
just
what I
trying
mean?
to see what
I'm
you're
not
trying
gonna
to say.
disrespect Mike.
Okay. If you were to have any business mentor, anybody that you look up to, Who would it be? Like that they'll give you an hour of their time.
Business mentor.
Like that you feel like, oh, they made great business decisions, they've grown, they have some value to add to me in this space, whether they're in fitness or not. Like which who would it be?
Probably Jay.
Jay.
Z.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just from nothing to something, but it's continued to elevate and create new lanes and new vehicles for himself.
Okay.
Um, it would probably have to be Jay in that space.
Okay.
Just he's making money and it's not even, in the rap game anymore. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean?
Last question. What is your outlook for the next 5 years for MENT Fitness?
The goal is to again create vehicles for trainers to truly do what they're passionate about. And so one, if we start something and then somebody else picks it up and continues to take care of trainers, by all means take it, right?
Right.
But the goal is for us to have mint locations across the nation.
Okay.
And so I'm initially leaning on my cohort of people that I know, the people that I know that we were in the outdoor space and you had six-figure businesses training in the parking lot, taking those individuals and putting them into a brick and mortar. I know they'll kill it. And so that's where I'm starting. So we have Design District that hopefully will be opened up by early summer. We're working on Frisco right now, finding a location. We're also in Austin right now, North Austin area, Pflugerville, Round Rock, looking for a location right now. So creating spaces for trainers that I know that were amazing that currently aren't doing what they're truly passionate about.
Sometimes as business owners or people who work hard, who's willing to put in the grind, willing to put in the work, sometimes we forget to ask for what we need. If you could tell us two things that you really need that you feel like would be very significant in the growth of MENT Fitness, what would it be?
Funding.
Funding.
Funding and funding. One and two. I say that to say because we have the systems in place. We have the trainers. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, our trainer team in Frisco and our trainer team in Austin will do better numbers than what we're doing in
Okay.
in the DeSoto Cedar Hill area right now. And so strong teams had huge success. Our region back then had about 1,250 members. The Austin team had about 4,000. And they can, if they say, hey, we're going to be here these days, they're going to have a swarm of people coming into that space.
Gotcha.
And then our Frisco location, I think they were like at 2,750 or something like that in that area. And so we were just at 1,250, you know what I mean? And so that would be 100% the thing, is just more so funding. And I think once we get there, other trainers will come on board once they see it's not just Brandon that's doing this thing. So-and-so did it, and he's successful. So-and-so did it, he's successful. We'll start getting a lot of those trainers that have taken a little break from the industry, or they're in the industry, but they're working at a big box gym. They're just making ends meet right now.
Tell the audience of trainers. Invite them to have a conversation with you. What would you tell them about MENT Fitness, how to contact you, and I don't know, just talk to them.
Hey, I want to create a space for you to truly thrive. We have in our system 5 ways for trainers to actually generate revenue in the gym space, while also taking care of you from giving you health benefits as well. And so we truly want to put the kind of ownership and onus back in your hands. And so you can reach me through my social media. On Instagram, I'm at HallFit, HALLFIT. Let's sit down. Let's break bread. Let's have coffee. But I want to create spaces for trainers to truly thrive in this space.
Awesome. And so then talk to the entire audience about if they're looking for a fitness trainer or to get back into the gym or to just become a member. Or how can they get in contact with you, and who should they call?
Cool. So, one, start somewhere. If you're not doing anything, start somewhere. If you are looking for a gym home, we have two different programs that we can offer. We also offer personal training, semi-private training. In the gym space, if you have any injuries, we have an on-site physical therapist, chiropractor, massage therapist. We do localized cryo. We have a recovery room upstairs. If you need to work out before going home, we have showers in the bathrooms. And if you have anyone in your family, or you have a child that has IDD, autism, Asperger's, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, we also train with our involvement program, our nonprofit. We train individuals with IDD, adults and children. So if you know anyone in that space, if you need fitness, please contact us. You can contact us through my Instagram, or our Instagram is @ MENT Fitness, MENT Fitness. MENT like development, nourishment, encouragement, improvement. So yeah, contact us there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we had an amazing conversation, and I think it adds value to the community. Keep doing what you're doing, keep growing. For the audience, if you learned something or you love the conversation that we had today, please share this video with someone you love, someone who's in the DFW area or elsewhere. Thank you for taking time to watch Philosophical Matter podcast. We have some upcoming guests that will be just as amazing as Brandon Hall. So, talk to you soon.